Thank you. Thank you. Hey, could I see a show of hands, please? How many of you in this room would like to look better, travel the world, and double your current income? Yes! I can help you with none of those things. Let me ask you this. How many of you would like to feel better, probably live longer, and have more sustained energy throughout your workday? I can help you with all of those things. I want to begin by introducing you to a person who's done it right. As a matter of fact, she holds the record for having healthy birthdays. You may have heard about her. Her name was Jeanne Calment, and she lived in France and holds the title for the longest living human of modern times. When she died a couple of years ago, she was 122 years old. 122 years old. How many of you in this room would like to live to be 122 years old? Not many hands. How about 100 years old? Still not many hands. How many of you want to make it till next Friday? Raise your hand. Just want to see what your goals are. Now, the reason you don't raise your hand for 122 or 100 is because it's not just about quantity, David. What's it about, everybody? Quality, exactly right. What good is it if we keep you alive in a nursing home with tubes up your nose? Nobody wants that. But that's not the life she had. Her mind was sharp. Her body worked fine until the last couple days of her 122 years. Now, you need to know something about this woman. Being that she lived so long, she was obviously married a long time. This is interesting. How many of you have heard that there seems to be something good for your health if you're part of a committed relationship as you go through life? Have you heard about this? This is pretty well established. It's been around for some time. But what's interesting is that the benefit is not the same for both partners. We see this, for example, at the end of life, and some of you know stories like this. We know, for example, that if the wife dies first, in most cases, the husband's health goes down pretty fast. Don't some of you know stories like that? We're not sure why this is. It could be because most men don't know how to cook and they starve to death. Yes. No? We don't know. But the opposite is not true. Watch this. We know that if the husband dies first, in most cases, the woman just keeps on going. Yeah. Now, what does this mean? This means women are good for men, but men are good for nothing, basically, is what that means. Yeah. In the year 2050, which is not that long from now, the average baby boomer who's still alive will be 100. And when that happens, there's not going to be 3,000 or 80,000 100-year-olds in the United States. There's going to be right at 1 million centenarians just in the U.S. This is going to change everything. The whole nation is going to look like Florida. Every car in America will constantly have its blinker on. Everyone will eat dinner at 4 p.m. That's coming. Be ready for that. But this is also not just happening in the U.S. Worldwide, by 2050, over 3 million 100-year-olds on this planet. Things are changing, and we want to make sure that we can increase not only the quantity of your years, but the quality of those years for you as well. First of all, on our 6 steps to longevity is optimism. We see a sense of optimism in these long-lived, healthy lives. And it's not that they're optimistic because they live to be 100. They probably live to 100 to a degree because they've been optimistic. How many of you would agree with me that there's people out there who are pretty much dyed-in-the-wool pessimists? Do you know these people, pessimists? And let me ask you, why did you marry them? Why did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. People who study this kind of thing tell us that once you're set, either as an optimist or a pessimist, you're pretty well set for life unless you purpose to change that, and only you are the one that can change it. Hey, bad things happen to everybody. We all have challenges. But would you agree with me, though? It's not what happens to you, but it's your response to what happens to you that really defines the journey of your life. Yes? Number 3 on our list is activity and mobility. And if you're taking notes, your goal is about 150 minutes a week of moderate activity such as a brisk walk, or 75 minutes per week of a more intense exercise like using a treadmill or a stationary bicycle. That's per week, not per day. You all have 75 minutes per week, don't you? That's the place you need to be, or more if you choose to do so. Number 5 is social connectedness. That is being part of the bigger community. It turns out that people really do need people after all. There's no Lone Rangers out there when it comes to being a long-lived, healthy human. In fact, one study found that not having a close personal friend or confidant is just as dangerous to your health as if you were a smoker. Isn't that amazing? Not having a close personal friend or confidant gives you the same risk to your long-term health as if you are a smoker. So what that means is if you must have a cigarette, do it with a friend. And number 6 is probably the one that you thought was number 1 on the list, and that's healthy habits. It's there, but it's not number 1. It's one of the 6. We want to talk a little bit about this in detail as well. Now, you all know this story. You've heard it before. You need to have physical activity in your lifestyle. You cannot smoke. You need to eat less sugar and less animal fat. You've heard that message. Now, let's put a little detail on that specific recommendation. You need to realize that gut fat is very dangerous fat. Gut fat is moving in and out of your blood system all the time. Hip fat is not dangerous because once it's back there, ladies, would you agree? It likes it back there. It's in the shade, it's cool, it has a lemonade, and it stays there for 50 years. But gut fat is moving in and out all the time, which at times can actually be good. Ladies, have you ever noticed that if you're doing a weight loss program with the man in your life, he has a much easier time of it than you? You know why that is? It's because where he's getting his calories from, right here. The downside of that is that it's also raising his triglyceride levels, it's raising his bad LDL, all of these other risk factors that increases cardiovascular disease risk, which in general is why the average American, at least in the States, lives about 7 years less than the average woman. Now, the problem with the bathroom scale is that it just tells you weight. It doesn't tell you what that weight is made up of. As I said, it could be muscle. You never want to lose muscle. It could be fat, and that's what you want to lose. And it could be water, but that's temporary. You never want to lose muscle. You never really need to lose water either. Fat on your body is the problem. But watch this. You could have a 6-foot man, 200 pounds, solid muscle, and the doctor will look on the height and weight table for 6 foot and see 200 pounds and say, you're overweight. Really? Where is this guy supposed to lose weight? He's solid muscle. He doesn't have any fat on him. On the other hand, you could have a 6 foot, 180 pound, middle-aged businessman who's got a gut hanging over his belt right here, and the doctor looks at 6 foot, 180 pounds and says, not bad. Clearly, your eyes will tell you one of these men is in good shape and the other isn't. But the height and weight table has some real problems because the scale has some real limitations. We've got something better than the height and weight table, and it's the tape measure. I would encourage all of you to get a tape measure and stop using your bathroom scale, because the tape measure is going to tell you where the real problem is, and if you carry it here, that's the problem. Ladies, you might not like it back here, but that's not going to hurt you nearly as much. Consider, if you would, this. The greater your waist size, the greater your risk of these problems in your future. High blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, which is a whole bunch of cholesterol risk factors together. And look at that, can you believe it? Asthma. Your risk for asthma goes up the greater your waist size. I never would have put those two together. And chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. By the way, your waist size is a much better predictor of your future health than the old height and weight and even the fancy BMI, body mass index, that so many people like. Your waist size is better. Now, here are the numbers I'd like you to write down. Ladies, you don't want your numbers to go above 35 inches or 90 centimeters for your waist. Gentlemen, for you, you don't want to go over 40 inches or 102 centimeters. When it does, you've got one of those diseases I just mentioned in your future. Now, this brings up another question as well. How do you measure waist size? How do you measure waist size? Sitting where you are right now, I want you to see if you all can find two bones right here. Can you all find two bones right at the top of your pelvis? It's called the iliac crest. Now, if you can't find those bones, that's a risk factor right there. Press harder. Now find those two bones and then measure at that point parallel to the floor all the way around your waist. I want you to compare that to your measurements that we just talked about here as well in terms of the number for women or for the numbers for men. One more thing, ladies, you know it's hard to lose hip fat. I don't have to tell you that. There is one way in research that's pretty clear that shows you how you can take hip fat off, but you're not going to like it. You can take hip fat off by breastfeeding. And some of you women are thinking, that ship has sailed. That train has left the station. Grandma, put that baby down. There's an image that'll stick in your mind tonight. Now, this whole topic can get confusing, especially when it comes to weight control, especially when it comes to exercise, too. For example, this next man is confused about exercise. He's confused about exercise. See? He's confused. His dog is skinny, that's good. These next two guys are confused about exercise as well. They're taking the escalator to the fitness center. They're confused. And here's something I bet you don't know. You should never swallow bubble gum during aerobics class. You should never swallow bubble gum during aerobics class. Otherwise, this could happen. Hey.